Hey, is this thing on? Is this thing on? When I wear shades like this, I feel like singing like Jerome. Ooh. I'm a player from the Himalayas. Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo. What's up, YouTube? It's Darren. I'm the Bowtie Fragrance Guy on the channel where we talk about fashion, fragrance, and lifestyle. So if you enjoy fashion and fragrance related content and lifestyle related content, consider subscribing to the channel and also make sure to hit the bell icon as well. That way, anytime I upload new content on YouTube, you'll get notified. I just want to see if that finger works. You'll get notified. It kind of did. So on today's video, I am going to be jumping into 10 fragrances I have in my collection that I would say these fragrances kind of fill up a room. Now, I mean, I know it's kind of figuratively speaking, they may not exactly fill up an entire room, but in other words, these fragrances have amazing performance, amazing sillage, and I just want to kind of share those 10 of those fragrances from my collection with you guys today. Now, I do understand that some people don't really care about performance. It's not as important to some folks as it is to others, but for those of you that it does matter to, I think you're going to enjoy the fragrances I have on this list today. Really quick, guys, I want to show you, I have some things that I picked up here recently I want to share with you guys because you're probably going to see these on a video coming up this week. I'm probably going to throw this combination together, so I just want to share them with you really quick. So you guys know that I love Tom Ford, and if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure that you go ahead and follow me over on Instagram because I did a, what do you call those things? Yeah, a reel last night on these items that I picked up from Tom Ford. So, what's in the bag? I'm glad you asked. The first thing that we have, of course, now guys, I will be honest with you, I'm not the hugest fan of Tom Ford as it relates to the clothing. I mean, to each his own. I'm not saying that they're not well made or anything like that, but, you know, just not really my style as far as clothing. Now, I do like, when you get to his menswear, I start to tend to like some of his stuff. So, you guys know I love Tom Ford. This is a pocket square from Tom Ford. So I love his pocket squares. I love his ties. Speaking of ties, I have this, and it is a gray tie with polka dots. So I'm gonna rock the heck out of this, if you guys can see that. It's a nice tie, man. I like polka dots. I like to do stuff like grays with black. Looks really good with any shade of gray. Of course, like I said, in black. So I'm gonna put something together with that combination. And also, last but not least, I picked up a nice pair of frames from Tom Ford as well. So I'm gonna throw these on really quick. And just to see, you know, what you guys, I'm gonna share this experience with you guys. Let's see how these things look. Here we go. Ooh, I'm liking that. Yeah, I'm liking these. What do you guys think? I like them. So anyway, guys, if you guys want to see what 10 fragrances are on this list today, 10 fragrances that fill up a room from my collection, then you know the routine. Keep it locked right here. Let's get it.
Bowtie Fragrance Guy.
All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump right into this video of 10 fragrances in my collection that have monstrous sillage, aka fragrances that will fill up a room. So the first fragrance that I want to talk about today, this fragrance is a fragrance that I actually mentioned this fragrance on a video last week, as a matter of fact. And this fragrance is from the house of Le Labo, and this one is called SANTAL 33. SANTAL 33. And I don't know what it is about this fragrance, man, but the sandalwood in here, the cedar wood, the leather, this fragrance just really amplifies off of my skin. When I've worn this thing, I can be 4 or 5 hours into wearing this and I'm still easily picking it up off of my own skin. The reason that I know with most of the fragrances that I'm going to talk about today on this list that these things really project well outside of me being able to personally pick up this scent a few hours into the wearing of these fragrances is that these particular fragrances are ones that when I actually wear these, folks, I usually get comments like, before I even got close to you, I could pick you up from a far, far distance. I mean, folks will actually make those type of comments with a lot of the fragrances on this list. So I already know, again, the proof is in the pudding. It is what it is. So the first one, if you guys are looking for something that really performs well as it relates to sillage projection performance, this one works well on me and it may work well for you as well. From the house of Le Labo, this is called SANTAL 33. All right, guys, so the next fragrance that I want to talk about today, this fragrance actually comes from the house of Electimus, and this one is called Imperium. This is called Imperium. This is a really, really nice fragrance. It does have some resemblance to Acqu Di Gio, but that's really not what the fragrance is about to me. It probably has, I would say, maybe a 20, 30%, maybe 40 if you, depends on how you really look at it, or what notes you pick up from it. Resemblance to Aventus, but really to me this is about the vanilla. Now Aventus does have vanilla as well, but this is a very prominent vanilla, and that vanilla, when it kicks in, and it's really a note that you're going to pick up for the duration of the wearing of this fragrance. And the longer you have it on your skin, the more you're going to smell the vanilla. So if you are a vanilla fragrance lover, this is one that you will enjoy because this thing performs like a monster on my skin. Check it out from the house of Electimus. This is called Imperium. All right, so the next fragrance in my collection that really performs well on my skin, this thing will sincerely fill up a room. This one comes from the house of Roger Parfums, and this is Amber AOUD. Amber AOUD. And of course, this is a rose oud fragrance, some incense, some other florals. It has a little bit of freshness in the opening of it. But man, this thing sticks around for an eternity on my skin. You don't need a lot of this stuff. And of course, if you look at the juice color on this fragrance, do not spray your clothes with this stuff, okay? Because it will stain. But outside of that, if you're talking about something that is going to perform, again, 2, maybe 3 sprays and you're good to go on this thing, and it will fill up a room. This thing performs like a monster on my skin, and if you try it, maybe it'll perform like a monster on your skin as well. So check this one out, guys. This is from the house of Roger Parfums. This one is called Amber AOUD. All right, guys, so the next fragrance up on the list, listen, I know for a fact this performs like a monster on my skin, and I've smelled this fragrance on other people, and it performs like a monster on their skin. I'm sincerely, guys, if anybody has tried this next fragrance, they will confirm. I think this is one that anybody that tries it, this one will actually fill up a room regardless of who the person is. I know skin chemistry is different, but I've never come into contact with anybody that's been wearing this and it hasn't caught my attention. It's really powerful. From the house of Tom Ford, this one is called Black Orchid. This one is called Black Orchid. Now, I've gone with the EDT version of this fragrance because for me, the EDT was enough. The Eau de Parfum is really some powerful stuff. So if you want even more increased longevity and performance, go with the EDP. But it was a little bit too much for me, if I'm being honest. But this was right, like kind of right, the perfect spot for me. Florals, black truffle. So you get this chocolatey kind of accord in this. You get the florals, primarily ylang-ylang. That's the primary fragrance. That is the primary floral note that I pick up in this. And you get some sweetness on the dry down. I think vanilla is in this, if I'm not mistaken. But this stuff is absolutely magical on my skin. A performance monster. If you want something that's going to perform, this is one that I highly recommend from the house of Tom Ford. Again, this is called Black Orchid. All right, guys, so the next fragrance on my list, on this list, and this one will come as no surprise to anybody that knows anything about this fragrance. This thing really kicks behind in the performance category from the house of Nichane. This is called HACIVAT. HACIVAT, HACIVAT, HACIVAT. This thing gets the job done. Yes, it has some resemblance to the king of fragrances, but to me, this goes in its own direction, because there is a very heavy and prominent note of oak moss. I get a lot of oak moss in this. Not so much of that smoky birch that you get from a vintage. This thing has really been about that kind of green, earthy, very earthy oak moss. I think some patchouli in here as well. And it really goes in that direction. And again, this thing really performs well. So check it out if you haven't, guys. I know you probably have heard a lot about this one. As it's been around now for quite some time. But man, 2 or 3 sprays of this and you're going to fill up a room. Check it out from the house of Nichane. Again, this one is called HACIVAT. All right, guys, this next fragrance up on the list, this one actually comes from the house of Initial Parfums, and this one is called Oud for Greatness. Oud for Greatness, another one, again, that really kicks behind in the performance category. Oud, and it's really enhanced, the Oud is really enhancing this by this very prominent musk accord. It's listed as a base note, but I pick up musk almost, instantaneously after spraying this fragrance. So you got the oud, and again, you got patchouli and musk. And I think a common theme of this list, quite a few fragrances on this list, you're gonna find that those base notes, musk, oud, patchouli, those things really help a fragrance to perform and project. This fragrance is no different. So check it out if you haven't yet, from the house of Initial Parfums, a performance monster. This thing is called Oud for Greatness. All right, so the next fragrance up on the list, man, this thing, listen, you have to be a person that can deal with a note of tuberose, but if you can, this stuff is fantastic. This one comes from the house of Frederic Malle, and again, this one is Carnal Flower. Carnal Flower. Now, I oftentimes tell a story when I talk about this fragrance that I was not the hugest fan of the note of tuberose for quite some time. I won't say that I love the note now, but this fragrance right here is one that has the note of tuberose that is very prominent, that I do really like. But this thing is a monster on the performance. And again, as a guy, you really got to be careful with the trigger on this, because it's already one that could lean a little bit more on the feminine side because of the tuberose, but it has tuberose, eucalyptus, and there's some coconut in here as well. It smells great. If you can pull it off, 2 or 3 sprays and you're good to go, because again, this one certainly will fill up a room. So check it out if you're brave enough, guys, like I am. This one comes from the house of Frederic Malle, and again, this is called Carnal Flower. All right, guys, so the next fragrance up on the list, this is another fragrance that has those roots, or a fragrance that heavily resembles the vintage DNA, from the house of Bond Number 9. This is called Bond Number 9 HTTP, or bondnumber9.com. And again, there's quite a few fragrances from Bond Number 9 that do supremely well on my skin as it relates to performance. And for me, personally, that's one of the reasons I really kind of gravitate towards fragrances from that house. Although it may not be fan favorites for a lot of people, it really works for me. And that's really what this journey is all about, finding fragrances that work personally for you. And this is one of the ones for me to just do it, man. This Scent of Peace, Bleecker Street, 3 fragrances from Bond that really perform well on my skin. And that's why I want to really highlight this one, because more people talk about the other 2, not as much about this one. And honestly, comparatively speaking, this is Scent of Peace, although some people try to compare that to a vintage, this is way more like a vintage, in my humble opinion. But anyway, pineapple, juniper berry, of course, blackcurrant, all notes that you find in the king of fragrances. But in this one, when you look at the base again, there's that patchouli and there's that moss ambery kind of dry down. And that's why this thing performs like a beast. Very similar to a few other fragrances that I've talked about already on this list today. This fragrance really performs well, so don't sleep on this one. Make sure you check it out, man. This again is from the house of Bond Number 9. It's bondnumber9.com, or some people affectionately refer to this as HTTP. All right, guys, now the next fragrance up on the list, this is a fragrance that not a lot of people talk about, but if I'm going to speak about fragrances that really fill up a room and perform well on my skin, this is one that I wanted to mention. From the house of Mancera, this is called AOUD Blue Notes. AOUD Blue Notes, the house of Mancera, a house that I think gets its fair share of recognition from a lot of people that consider themselves connoisseurs of fragrances, because typically it gets the attention it deserves for having fragrances that, 9 times out of 10 perform really well, especially for what you're going to pay for these fragrances. This one right here, guys, there's something about this that puts me in the mindset of one of my favorite designer fragrances of all time, which is Burberry Touch. Now, there is violet in this, and there's some green accords in the heart of this fragrance, and I think that's where I really draw that comparison from in some of the spicier aspects of this. But on the dry down, get some guaiac wood, you get some leather in this one as well, and some sandalwood, and it really, really projects and sticks around for a long time on my skin. So if you're looking for one, maybe that not a lot of people don't talk about from the house of Mancera that performs really, really well, this is one that I highly recommend, especially if you like a fragrance like Burberry Touch. I'm sure you will really enjoy this one. So check it out. Again, this is one that's from the house of Mancera. This is called AOUD Blue Notes. All right, guys, and last but not least, won't talk about this fragrance a whole lot. You guys already know what time it is with this, but of all iterations of this fragrance, this one projects and performs the best on my skin from the house of Christian Dior. This is Dior Sauvage Eau de Parfum. Eau de Parfum. I've walked past crowds of people before, and they've been 10 yards past me and turned around because that sillage they were overtaken by it. You guys know what this fragrance is. You know what it does. Again, won't spend a lot of time on it, but on my skin, the Eau de Parfum concentration of this fragrance really performs the best on my skin. I don't need, as I said again, to go on and on about this one. You guys already know what time it is. From the house of Christian Dior, this is Dior Sauvage Eau de Parfum. All right, guys, that is it. That's my time. I hope you enjoyed this list today, as I gave you 10 fragrances from my collection that have monstrous sillage that will fill up a room. As always, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention to these videos. You don't have to watch, but you do, and I sincerely appreciate that. Now, don't forget to make sure you take a few moments to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you're sharing these videos out to some other folks that you think may be able to use this information, or maybe even, they may even find the content to be entertaining. Because I'm your guy, Darian, man. I'm the bow tie fragrance guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.